some of the players you kind of keeping an eye on this Saturday?
You know what? I want to see the rookies. I mean, you have your bubble guys like your Trent Taylors. You want to see how Darius Phillips does returning punts. I mean, we can go across the whole roster. Marcus Bailey, you want to see how he does. You want to see how Logan Wilson does with the calls and the headset. But when it really comes down to it, the starters and the veterans, I don't even want to see them play that much in the first preseason game or two because I don't want there to be injuries. They better not give Mixon a carry in this game. But I'm intrigued about the rookies. I want to see a guy get in there. I want to see what Shelvin can do. They haven't been talking about him much in training camp. Deontay Smith has been having a great camp. Let's see how he does. He's going to get pushed into the lineup a lot. Let's see Chris Evans out of the backfield getting some receptions. Let's see if Trey Hill belongs on this level. Let's see if Cam Sample is healthy enough. Let's watch McPherson, hopefully go 2 for 2, 3 for 3 on field goals. And, of course, Jackson Carmen, let's see what happens when he gets in there as well. So there's a lot to look at, and I would say I'm more interested in seeing the rookies right now than I am any veteran. I mean, I don't even want to see Higgins get the ball. I definitely don't want to see Mixon get the ball. Ogunjobi, no, he doesn't need the work. Save your Hubbard, save your Hendrickson, save your Bates and your Bells. Let's go. Let's get the rookies a good chance, and those are the guys that I'm most looking forward to, and I'm hoping that those are the guys that play the most this Saturday in Tampa.
To me, if I'm Taylor and the Bengals, I don't even play Mixon, Boyd, Higgins, Bates. Honestly, I don't know if I would play Chase. I know I sound crazy. I do not want to take a chance of getting one of our star players hurt again in a meaningless game when we know they're already going to be productive. There's no point in even playing them. Earlier in this Patriots and Washington game, I think it was the Patriots' second drive maybe, Cam Newton got absolutely rocked by Chase Young. At first, it looked like Newton got hurt, but he didn't. It was a tremendous sack by Young, and it goes back to last season against Washington. I don't think it would be a smart idea to play our top guys when it's not necessary to. And a couple guys to me I'm really interested in. To me, number one has to be Jackson Carmen, because we already talked about the competition with him and Michael Jordan and Sufilo. We don't know, depending how Carmen plays, maybe he goes up to the guard number 2 or maybe even number 1. Lots of people kind of talked about Carmen's weight recently. He's not played great throughout training camp. Now, these preseason games are the time where he can prove doubters wrong and, play much better than people maybe expect him to. And couple other guys, I'm really interested to see Akeem Davis Gaither. He's one of my favorites as well. And, he did not play a ton last season. He did not play as much as he should have. But the limited time he played last season, watching those games, he made a huge impact. I remember against Philadelphia, I believe it was Miles Sanders. He was going out for a wheel route, and Davis Gaither broke up that pass. And if you go back and watch that game, if Davis Gaither wasn't there and if we did not have that diving deflection pass, we honestly, instead of tying, we would have lost that game. So I'm really interested in Davis Gaither. And one very, very underrated camp battle I'm interested in, just to see both of these guys, is Jordan Evans and Joe Bachie. Jordan Evans, I don't think is a lot to make the team. He re-signed with us on a 1-year deal. And we signed Joe Bachie. It was a very underrated signing, and I think he has potential to make the roster and battle it out with Evans as the possible final linebacker spot. Joe Bachie, he was a rookie last season. I think he played for the Seahawks. I'm not quite sure. But coming out of the draft, he was actually one of my favorite linebacker prospects. He was in my top 10 linebacker rankings. And I was really, really happy when the Bengals ended up getting him. I thought that was an extremely underrated move. So I'm really interested in, Davis Gaither, Jackson Carmen, and Jordan Evans and Joe Bachie.
That's great. You got your eyes on the linebacking core, and I hear you. There's a lot to look at there. You're right about Davis Gaither, and I do remember the play you were talking about. I just forgot the fact that would have been a loss if he didn't make that deflection. He also had a nice play in the backfield at one point. My problem with Davis Gaither at this point, I know he had a great college career for a semi-small school, but I just think he's undersized. Like, I mean, to play the linebacker position at like 215 pounds, I don't know if I've ever seen that. So they might have to develop a unique role for him. I just can't see a guy that size be an every down linebacker. But yes, he has shown flashes like you just talked about, like I just talked about. So he's a big mystery. And I think it's going to be up to the defensive coaching staff to find a role for him. And as far as Bachie versus Evans, you know, I'm gonna defer to you on that. I didn't know anything about Bachie coming out of college. I think he was with the Eagles a little bit too. I don't know. He's been a little traveled, but you know, Jordan Evans kind of never lived up to the hype. He was like the fastest linebacker the year he came out, and he just never seemed to do it from the line of scrimmage. He just seemed to be a special teams guy. So I hear you on that. You know, those are fun battles to watch. Just like you know what's fun for me right now is the tight end position. When you have like Wilcox and Shrek and Moss, and then, you know, O'Grady and, you know, and Pro Wells, all those guys, like that's kind of interesting who's going to get that third spot as well. And for some reason, I'm just rooting for Thaddeus Moss. I don't know why. He had a flashy college career. He's Burrow's ex-teammate, seems like a cool guy. And, you know, I don't know. I'm like your interest in the linebacking core is how I feel about the tight end core. And they're both two like underdog units, not glamorous positions or anything, but you know, I'm right there with you. I'm watching the whole roster, and you know, I'm making my choices, but I'm glad you're watching those linebackers because it's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah, I mean, really completely forgot about the tight end battle. I mean, that's going to be really, really interesting. You look at, I mean, obviously Uzama and Sample are the two for sure. And then everything else, I don't think it's a guarantee that Moss makes the team. I don't think it's a guarantee that Mason Shrek makes the team. Pro Wells has been pretty nice. It's kind of interesting because, you know, I'm from Huntington, West Virginia, and that's where Randy Moss played. And that's where Marshall University's campus is. That's where Randy Moss played college. So, and that's just Moss's son. So Thaddeus Moss is kind of cool to see, you know, your favorite team growing up. You know, his son plays for your favorite team. And also Pro Wells played at TCU. But before he played at TCU, he was originally committed to Marshall. Then he, you know, went to TCU and everything. You mentioned Wilcox. O'Grady is one I'm really, really interested in. I don't think people are talking about enough. But I would say, I mean, that is a very, very underrated battle. Because you think about it, you know, we're going to have at least 3 tight ends, maybe 4. And who knows? We might keep at least 1, maybe even 2 on the practice squad.
No, I agree with you. I think the same thing. I think they're going to have – I'm speculating. Who knows what the personnel department's going to do. But I'm thinking they're going to have 3 and put 2 on the practice squad. They're not going to let – they're going to keep 5 of those guys in the building. That's my opinion. And you know, we always forget, like, injuries happen too. So even with the linebackers, you know, you're thinking it's going to be these 6 guys and these 2 guys are getting cut. All of a sudden someone's hurt, and now one of the guys you thought was getting cut is going to be full action. So, yeah, I mean, those are the fun things. You know, that we know who the starting wide receivers are. We know our quarterback. We know our defensive line. But the intriguing stuff is like the linebackers, the tight ends, even that backup running back position. I mean, we could talk about that for 20 minutes right now on who we speculate, you know, and, you know, we're not going to know anything until we start seeing preseason games.
And you mentioned with injuries and everything else. I was actually talking to somebody months and months ago, and I thought it was really interesting. I'm trying to look up. I cannot remember if Mason Shrek was drafted. I'm thinking he was. I know he came out of Buffalo. If he was drafted, he was a 7th round pick. But okay, he was. Let's see here. He was drafted in the 7th round in 2017 by the Bengals. At the time the Bengals drafted him, he was probably our 4th string tight end. We had some injuries. He ended. Excuse me. You know, Shrek, when we drafted him, it was very, very unlikely he made the team. He ended up getting hurt and was out for the year. The following year, he was like our 5th or 6th string tight end. You know, something crazy. He ended up making the team, and he's been with our team ever since. He was a 7th round draft pick from a small school like Buffalo. He does not play a single regular season game his rookie year. And then, you know, somehow works his butt off, you know, spots are open, you know, injuries happen, and he ends up making the team. So you make a great point there about the injuries. And, you know, there's some guys, maybe like a O'Grady or Wilcox, if injuries happen, you know, they might actually, you know, be on the opening roster.
100%. That's there's going to be guys. We all have 3-man roster set right now, but there's a lot that's going to happen, and everyone gets hurt. We can look at our starting 22, our 11 and our 11, and I guarantee 2 of those guys at least are not going to be playing this season. So there's always going to be other people thrust into the mix. And that's how Mason Schreck stayed around for 4 years. That's how Jordan Evans stayed around for, I don't even know how long, 5 years, 6 years at this point. I don't even know how long he's been with the team. But yes, you can't bank on anything. And it's exciting and it's fun to speculate on everything because football's starting and you think it's going to be these guys, but then it turns into these guys. And I'm not trying to get on a tangent, but think about last year with our defensive line. It was going to be what? It was going to be Hubbard, Reeder, Atkins, and Lawson. And, by the end of the year, you didn't have the same 4 guys starting that you thought. It was very different than that. So it's fun to speculate, but we just never know what's going to happen. And injuries are going to creep up because it's a violent game played with very strong, very fast people. And as the years go by, they get bigger, stronger, and faster. And ligaments and knees, those, you can't strengthen that. You can't strengthen your ligaments, and you can't, no matter how strong you get, you can't prevent an ACL. Like, those things are always going to happen. And the force that these guys are playing with, we see it every year. Injuries are rampant. So it's almost like survival of the fittest at time.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see some of these top guys or some of these, undrafted free agents or late round picks trying to earn their roster spot this Saturday. So I know this is probably going to be a very inaccurate predictions due to we don't know how long some starters will play. It was announced. Bruce Arians said that all starters of the Buccaneers, for the most part, will be playing, which to me is very, very stupid. But if you had to have a score prediction for the Bengals Buccaneers game, what would it be?
All right. Well, first off, Arians is crazy. I wouldn't let Brady even throw a warm-up pass in this game, but let him do what he wants. A lot of times that's posturing by a coach to say, hey, we're resilient, we're tough, we're strong, we're fearless. So yeah, the starters are going to play in the preseason. You're absolutely crazy. You're being foolish. So I don't know. But as far as the score prediction, I'm always going to root for the Bengals to win. I'm always going to think that the Bengals are going to get the edge. So, I mean, I could easily say 16-6 Buccaneers. I could say that. But I'm going to say this. For the betting people out there, take the under on this game. And the Bengal fan in me, let's go 13-10 Bengals.
That's a very, very interesting pick. I'm thinking more so 24-16 Buccaneers. And we kind of mentioned, players to keep an eye on for the Bengals. Somebody I'm really, really, really interested in watching is actually on the other team. It's Kyle Trask, the quarterback of Florida. Last year I pretty much watched every single Florida game. You watch back on some of his games, he has potential, but to me he kind of reminds me of a Derek Carr. He has potential to be really good, but you watch his games, he has limited athleticism, and I feel like Kyle Trask is a perfect situation to be with Tampa Bay eventually once Tom Brady retires, and especially once we see Trask performing with some of these maybe top weapons who are actually in the game, depending how long Arians keeps them in. I'm really, really excited to see Trask play. But, as for the other Bengals players too, I would say 24-16 Tampa Bay.
All right. Let's see what happens. Either way, I'm going to be rooting for it. I'm going to be excited about watching the players. Even though preseason games can be sleepers, I love watching the back half of the roster battle it out. And me being in New Jersey, I'm not going to get to see the game live. And NFL Network also did the Bengals dirty, because that game is not going to be on until 4 a.m. Sunday night. Like after midnight on Sunday, 4 a.m, like technically Monday morning, is when I actually get to watch the Bengals. So I might actually tune out from social media just because I like to not know the score ahead of time. I don't know if that's going to help me or hurt me, because I know there's going to be a lot of news going on. But yes, that's it. But just on another note, the other 2 games, the game against the Washington football team is going to be broadcast live on NFL Network, and the game against the Dolphins is going to be broadcast live on CBS. So it's only for me. I'm going to struggle for the first week and have to sit there and DVR it, but the other two games are going to be, I'll be right there in the action. So yeah, definitely enjoy the game. I hear what you're saying about Trask. I mean, he's in the right system to succeed with Arians and underneath Brady, so that is going to be fun. But I'm still going to be rooting for Osai to blast him on the first play he's in there that he drops back on.
Well, I mean, I do agree with that. And you mentioned, the Bengals not being on. I live about 3 hours away from Cincinnati, and the game's not going to be on here. I think it's the Browns and whoever they're playing, I think. But, I mean, it's the defending Super Bowl champs with the greatest quarterback of all time starting in a preseason game. He should not be playing at all. But the fact that he's starting, it kind of goes back to, my rant earlier about, the Bengals not getting any credit. It feels like the majority of this episode, we've been just ranting on different things. More so me, just on like how, the sports media hates the Bengals. But if it was any other team playing the Buccaneers, it would be the Lions or the Eagles or whoever it may be, the Raiders. If it was any other team playing the Buccaneers who just won a Super Bowl, who has the best roster in the NFL, with Tom Brady playing, it'd be on national television. But it's not because, as typical, it's the Bengals. And we all know they always try to put the Bengals on TV as least as they possibly can.
Exactly right. I remember, I'm not much longer, but I remember there was NFL Network. It was last year before the season started. They did an AFC North preview. And they talked about all three teams, but not the Bengals. I was like, this is an AFC North preview. You got to talk about the Bengals, even for 30 seconds. And they did not do that. But you know what, Jordan, let's embrace that. Let's be the underdog. Let's be the forgotten ones. It's better than being the ones with all the expectations. You know what? Forget about us. Forget about us. And then when Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Mixon and Boyd and Bell and Bates and Hendrickson and all those guys start banging away, then we're going to have our day. And it's coming. It's coming. I'm hoping we hover around 500 this year. I always want us to have 11 wins. I'm always predicting 11 wins. I could be tripping. But let's just be competitive this year and be in the fight. And then whether it's this year, next year, year after, let's make a charge and get us all where we want this team to be, and just be like, there you go, national media. We got you. You ain't going to forget about us now. You're going to remember our names.